Welcome back. We've had our in-camera session at 6 p.m. and now we're back in open session. I want to let everyone know that there was an additional item listed for members of council to go in camera. We did not go in camera to discuss the Ayton Mill Pond. That will be scheduled for April 2nd. All right, with that, I have a motion from Councillor Hergert, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby returns to open session of council at 7:05 p.m. Questions? Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, does carry. I'm just signing the motion, Clerk Turner. I will, for the record, say that as mayor, I can identify that only those items that we went in camera for were discussed in camera. All right. All right, so that takes us down to item, well, that actually takes us down to matters arising from the closed session. We will continue on. We did not complete our discussion in camera, so we will. There will be a requirement for us to go back in camera further in the agenda. But what I would propose, with the indulgence of council, is that we would deal with any public items on the agenda prior to going back in camera. After we conclude our in-camera session, we will come back out in public and adjourn the meeting at that time. So in the interest of our public, we'll just bump up some of those items so that we can address them ahead of time. All right, so now we are on item 6, which is comment period. Members of the audience, is there anyone that would like to make a comment on any item on this agenda? Okay, scanning quickly. Thank you very much. Oh, please go ahead. If he doesn't, you know, there's a button over on the right.
Gray button. Top gray button.
This we know, yeah. Oh, but it needs to be on, Wayne, just because it's recorded. So we want everybody to hear what you're having to say.
Oh, that one, okay.
Wayne, state your whole name for the record.
It's Wayne Peffer from the lovely village of Ayton, or just south of it, but definitely part of West Grey. Madam Mayor, members of council and staff, good evening, everybody. Thank you for allowing me several minutes of your meeting time to address one of your agenda items, which I believe was maybe addressed at one of your previous meetings as well. I want to express my personal opinion for your consideration as a council when you are making your decision. It is very, very great for me, as well as other members of West Grey, to see that the Durham Heritage Bridge is now nearing its completion stages. And I compliment not only the present council for seeing it through to fruition, but also the previous council in its decision in the past to restore this important heritage and reminder of our past. It is certainly a beautiful location, and it's certainly a landmark in the Durham community. I understand that the naming of this bridge is now being considered by council, and that some suggestions have been offered for council's decision. I have also been informed that one of the considerations might be to naming this bridge as a memorial to a former council member. I want you to know that I, as well as other taxpayers and residents of West Grey, are vehemently opposed to this action happening, and the idea of singling out one individual person to be named on a bridge, a street, a walkway, a road, or a building is wrong, wrong, wrong. As many of you know, I served on Normanby Township Council prior to the amalgamation with West Grey for over 15 years. And having served on council, I knew right from the start that every action that we took was a team effort. It wasn't one single individual, not one single man, not one single woman who made things happen. And everything we did, all of our plans, all of our projects as they came to fruition, included the teamwork of all of council and all of the staff members. You have to work as a team to make council happen, and every one of you seated there knows that. Every one of you know that to set motions into place and to make progress and growth, you've got to work as a team. It never is, it never was meant to be a one-man or a one-woman show. It takes everybody working together to make things happen. To dedicate this walkway bridge as a memorial to only one councillor from the past, in my mindset, would be a very, very wrong decision to make on behalf of this council. If anything were to happen, I would suggest that perhaps a plaque that names all of the former councillors from the last group, as well as the present council, their names might be put on, but please, please, please do not single out one individual person. And I know that the Lions Club has put a considerable amount of money into this project, the bridge and the gardens around it as well. And I really think that somewhere they need to be given credit for that. And maybe that's part of your plan. Maybe that's part of what's in the works. I don't know. But please do not name it after one single person as a memorial. There are other ways to memorialize a person, and I don't feel that this would be right to do this.
Thank you, Wayne.
Can I just have another half a page, if I may?
Well, we are set for 2 minutes, so if you could talk real quick.
I'm going to go fast. I'll
Okay.
just read.
Yes, absolutely. Please go ahead.
To set a precedent by naming it Councillor Whoever Memorial is going to have very, very far-reaching effects into the future. Are all of the new roads, bridges, streets, buildings, anything else that's erected going to all have a former councillor's name as well? There has been a big move throughout the boards of education and other political areas to move away from using people's names. And I'm just going to refer you to James A. McGee's school in Hanover that has been renamed Hanover Heights. I know there are rumblings about the McPhail Memorial School in Flesherton, and I'm not going to go into details about that. As I said, I know I'm speaking on behalf of other ratepayers and community members in voicing my objections to the suggestions that was made by a former councillor. In all due respect, I am not in any way trying to downplay the role of service, political service, that Carol Lawrence has made to this community and to the former Board of Education in which she served. She played a vital role in all of those organizations for many years, but what about all of the other good things that have been done by other councillors as well?
Okay.
They have also served faithfully. I think I've made my point.
Yes.
Thank you very much for allowing me the time to address this issue, and best wishes in all of your deliberations.
Thank you very much for your comments. Really appreciate that. All right. Anybody else in the audience that would like to comment on any item on this agenda? Okay. Well, thank you very much. So we're moving on to item 8 now. Oh, first of all, item 7, public meetings. Sorry to skip over. We don't have any, which is why my eye cast down to item 8. Now we're on 8, which is part 1 consent agenda. I do have a motion in front of me, which is moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Hergert. Be it resolved that items A1 to B1 inclusive contained in Part 1 consent agenda be adopted as amended. And further, that authorization be given for the action to be taken as may be necessary to give effect to the recommendations contained therein. Clerk Turner, please.
The one amendment I made is the March 5th Committee of the Whole minutes. I did refer to Bonnie Kraus as Bonnie Miller, which is her maiden name, so I have changed that.
Okay, thank you for the explanation on the amendment. Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Just curious, is D5 part of the consent agenda? There's some future dates? D5? Future committee meetings?
Well, the future meetings are not part of the consent.
Okay,
But
that's
I
all right.
can't, do you want me to list them off?
There's just a correction, that's all. The public, West Quay Public Library Board date is March 27th instead of 28th.
It'll be
Just
so noted.
corrections.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification. That's perfect. Anything further? Calling the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Does carry. Okay. Thank you. All right, that takes us now to Part 2, regular agenda. Item 9, communications from mayor and members of council. I'll start it off, and then I'll look to my left, Councillor Townsend, after I speak. Hopefully you'll be prepared, as usual. Thank you very much. All right, very busy few weeks. I attended, as all members of council, the senior and elected officials training for emergency preparedness. There was the 11th annual politicians meeting with the Ontario Federation of Agriculture held on Saturday, March 9th. Really effective, eye-opener, a lot of information. Learned from that in terms of farm tax and the issues surrounding that, which will be coming up at later Grey County Council agenda. CD Saturday, we have our Secretary of the Durham District Horticultural Society in the audience, and thank you very much for a very well-organized and hosted event this past Saturday. It always lends itself to spring, and the first day of spring being tomorrow. Newstat firefighters chicken barbecue was amazing. I attended a couple hockey games. I was at the Durham Thundercats game on Saturday, and then the Warriors game on Sunday. Very cool games. I really enjoyed them. I want to do a shout out to the Durham Rampage. There's a novice rep game in Ayton this Wednesday at 7 p.m. So hopefully folks can attend that. I've certainly taken enough time. There's much more on my agenda, but so be it. Councillor Townsend.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Yep.
The first thing I'd like to acknowledge is that the Durham Library had their book sale this past weekend and was able to get quite a few good books at reasonable prices, and the trick is to overpay if you can. So I encourage everyone to do that if you can. Catch the Aces on every Friday, just to remind you. And again, the hockey games, I think, were really good and exciting. It was a shame to see the Thundercats go down, but at least they put up a good show, particularly with the injuries they had. The other thing that should remind people of is the Olympic flag raising is happening on the 25th of March, so if you can attend, please do so. And the other thing is, got a little bit of challenge for the councillors. It's an invite to go to the Ayton murder mystery on April 13th.
Okay.
Your participation, as well as your presence, is requested. You'll probably get invites, and just to let you know that a little bit of the plot is that you're going to be asked to assist to stop the communist coup that is about to occur. So you're encouraged to please get your tickets early. They do tend to sell out. I'll tell you that because we go a lot. I think you'll really enjoy it. The politician event that was hosted by the Agricultural Societies was more than just interesting. I think it gave us an insight into some of the things that locally they may be challenged to, and also worldwide. The three trade agreements that have been put out there are really hurting them and affecting their revenues to the point that one of the stats they gave us was that milk sales are down 18% as a result in Canada. That's pretty significant, and I think we take that for granted and don't realize those impacts unless someone gives you the numbers. So anyway, I'll pass it on to my comrades. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. Councillor Hergert?
Just continuing the conversation about Elmwood Politician Day under new business, I would like to have a supporting resolution for their discussion regarding assessment and the tax mill rate, and I understand that you are bringing that to the county. So just to let everyone know that we have heard them, as
Good.
well so the ag rate and the vacant commercial tax are the two that I would like to propose council support and move that on up to the county. Yes, so I already bought my tickets for the Ayton Murder Mystery, so I hope everyone comes. It's a really great fundraiser for the Optimist Club, and it's really good, fun community, local event. Also, the Durham Ag Society is having an evening out on May 3rd. And if you need tickets, Donna Clark is the contact for that. We've recently put on our website under the bridge rationalization study. I encourage everyone to go check those out. There's 3 different studies that were done, and just encourage everyone to go to our website and take a review of those. There is a student startup program through the Saugeen Connects collaboration, which is part of our economic development group. It's for AA students ages, grades 6 to 12, provides $200 startup for the summer business and $100 at the end of the summer. And if there's any questions or you want more information, Kathy Sweeney here in our office is working on that program.
Good, thank you. Yeah, I would encourage everyone to attend the Murder Mystery. We have our 2 tickets reserved, but now I got a little bit of reservation that we might have to participate, so I'll have to check that out. Anyway, Councillor Shea, please.
Thank you. I was this morning to represent the Police Services Board. I sit on the board along with the mayor and 3 other representatives from the community to oversee our local police. And our board is a member of a larger group, which is called Zone 5, which is 1/6 of all the police forces in the province, which is part of a larger group, which is the Ontario Association of Police Boards, Police Service Boards. So we're well represented. I just wanted everybody to know that that structure is all in place to help oversee local police. In the province, there used to be hundreds of independent, locally run police forces, municipally run police forces. It's down to, I believe, 50 now, and the number is shrinking. So I think we're very lucky to have a locally run police force and something that we should work hard to try to make as efficient and productive as possible. I was also up earlier in last week to do alternate councillor training at the county, so I'm appointed to be an alternate councillor if either of our 2 council reps can't make it. And I learned some really interesting things. One was that the county employs almost 900 people, and 3/4 of those people are working in providing services to vulnerable communities. Yes. So long-term care, paramedics, affordable housing, and those sorts of services. So I was very proud of that. So thank you.
Thank you very much for that comprehensive report. I appreciate it. Deputy Mayor, please.
Good evening. Well, it's hockey finals, of course. I just want everybody to be aware that the Bantam Rep team is they're tied 2-2 with the OMHA finals against Delhi. The next game is this Saturday, I believe. This Saturday at 4:30 in the afternoon. So get out. It's in Durham. Let's go fill the arena, support the local hockey team. It was good to see Mayor Robinson out with a couple hockey games, chattering her teeth along with the rest of us. But anyways, the Newstead Firefighters Chicken Dinner last Sunday was a huge success. I believe they served over 400 participants. So I know I went home with a belly full. The Saturday, the March 30th, I'm going to be attending the Air Cadets speech contest as their MC, so that's going to be held in Hanover. And I know on the 31st, March 31st, it's going to be the Trek for Turrets in Ayton, and we're going to be a judge for the fire truck pull, so quite a bit of activity going on in the community. Thank you.
Good, thank you for that. Councillor Hamilton, please.
So most of us at council attended emergency control group training a couple of weeks ago, and that was all of Grey County coming together and learning from each other and how we manage emergencies. So that was a very informative day together. I tried curling for the first time at the Durham Curling Club, and yeah, it's such a great asset to have in our community. So I will be out trying curling again. I enjoyed CD Saturday with my whole family and enjoyed the speakers, and the partnership with West Grey Library was also present with their youth librarian. So that was great to see. Today I was invited to go visit the Styrofoam Densifier in Brockton, and so I had a tour of all the great initiatives that are happening in Brockton with their Environmental Advisory Committee. And I'm looking forward to our first meeting of the Dark Sky Committee, and that will be, that's next Monday at 10 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. And that'll be 10 a.m., not 10 p.m., dark skies. Yeah, just couldn't resist. Sorry. Councillor Hutchinson, please.
Yeah, so I won't spend a lot of time talking about the number of events that people have already mentioned, but lots of things going on in West Grey. I'd just like to pass out my congratulations to all the minor hockey teams that are doing really well, West Grey minor hockey. In particular, the Bantams are in the OMHA finals right now versus Delhi, and are doing well. I'd also like to congratulate our Durham Thundercat T-Cats, who have just lost out in going into the finals, but had a very good year, good run. And as it was interesting at that last game that we did have a licensed arena at that time, and it went over fairly well, and people were very positive about being able to have the odd alcohol beverage while they were sitting in the stands watching the game. So I was pleased to see that, and so maybe something we'll have more further discussion in the future. Just a comment about the Federation of Agricultural Politicians meeting that was in Elmwood. It was great to see, to listen to some of the concerns that our local farmers. We have lots of farmers in West Grey, and we do want to support them. And so anything we can do to support their livelihood and their concerns, I'm all for. So congratulations to all, and that's all I have at this time.
Thank you very much. All right, Clerk Turner, I'm just turning to you. Would it be appropriate, I think our delegation is here, we could start a few minutes early? Any issue with that? Okay, Council? Yeah, close enough? Good. Just move the agenda along. So we're moving on to item 10, which is delegations, and we have one this evening, Dolores Ray. Hello, how are you? Request for a three-way stop at the corner of Baseline Road and Concession 8 in Bentic, and a reduction in the speed limit on Baseline Road between Concession 6 and 8. So welcome. Would you mind going to the podium, please? And okay. Okay, that's good. Our clerk will address it. Sure. And the microphone's on, so you just have to start talking.
Some part you might need to show them these. She made a few extras just to hand out. I guess they can all keep this one can go too, probably. Okay. My name's Dolores Ray.
Yes.
I've resided on the west half of Lot 25, Concession 3, WGR, in the former Bentic Township, at the intersection of the Baseline and Concession 8, NDR, for 45 years. Most of this information at the beginning I've already submitted to Mr. Turner when I made my initial request for this meeting. I've seen our neighborhood grow over the years from only 3 farm residences on the corner of the Baseline and Concession 8, and 1 small bungalow on the Baseline south of my residence. There are now 12 additional residences on the Baseline between the 6th and 8th concessions, for a total of 16 within 1.25 miles. In 2008 and again in 2012, I addressed the traffic concerns on this section of the roadway with the municipality. My written request for reduced speed and the creation of a 3-way stop at that corner of the Baseline in Concession 8, which is directly in front of my residence, was supported by way of the submission of a petition signed by my neighbors, which I have on hand for your review if you need it. Our request was denied, and the municipality responded stating that they would improve the sight line by cutting the brush to the north of the intersection and installing intersection signage. The work was completed at that time, but now the visibility is pretty well nil again because of the regrowth. Vehicle traffic and the speed has increased dramatically on the baseline. My neighbors and I feel there's a definite danger to pedestrians walking on the roadway and local residents exiting their driveways, most of which are not clearly visible to north and south traffic, as most of these homes are located on bush lots. There's also a constant danger due to many tractors and heavy oversized farm equipment traveling on the baseline between the 6th and the 8th concession. This occurs during normal farming operations of at least 4 farmers in the area, between their multiple farm locations or for access to their fields. We also believe that many vehicles travel on the baseline from the 6th concession north all the way to the Grey Road 25, which is a distance of approximately 9 kilometers. They're avoiding the speed limit posted on Highway 6. So for the most part, it's not the local residents who are traveling at a high speed, flying past the intersection and launching gravel and dust towards the pedestrians and other vehicles. These persons who are traveling so quickly are simply showing no consideration towards the residents and a disregard for the safety of themselves and others. We continue to have traffic to and from Welbeck Sawmill, including their clients, delivery trucks, and courier services. The baseline is also traveled by trucks from a resident's construction business. It appears that the increased traffic in recent years has left the baseline in practically impassable condition at this time of year. Currently, the road is soft and muddy with deep ruts that almost propel you into the ditches. But the good thing is that the road condition right now, non-residents are forced to slow down or they just avoid travel on the baseline. I've often wished that I could just install speed bumps ahead of my home for the same effect. My personal immediate concern is that the baseline is crossed numerous times each day by my neighbors who now rent my barns and the land. Visibility is greatly reduced for them coming out of my laneway, and this problem also exists for residences to the south of my property, which are below road level. Visibility is limited at the corner, and when turning north onto the baseline, vehicles must move out into the intersection to check for oncoming traffic heading south. A neighbor living to the north of me just told me yesterday that he had a close call recently when a car pulled out from the stop sign right in front of him. Fortunately, this gentleman doesn't drive at a high rate of speed. For many years, there were no young children in the neighborhood, but thankfully that has changed. And some of them are here tonight with us. There are now several families with small children living on the baseline between the said concessions 6 and 8. The speed of vehicles traveling this section of the roadway is a danger to these children, and the presence of the children also means more buses are using the roadway. Just the last couple of years, several Mennonite families have moved into our neighborhood as well. The vehicle speed is definitely a danger to them when they're traveling on the baseline in their horse-drawn vehicles. The baseline between the 6 and the 8 concessions, and also areas north of us, is through a lot of dense bush and swamp, and as in many areas, the movement of deer and other wildlife across the road is, of course, a constant danger to the vehicles traveling at excess speed. We're of the opinion that creating a 3-way stop at the intersection of the baseline and concession 8 will help reduce the speed limit, the speed traveled on this section of the roadway, in addition to making the intersection much safer. We also believe that designating and posting signage to reduce the speed limit on the baseline from the 6th to the 8th concessions to 50 kilometers an hour, as in the case of many other rural residential areas in the municipality, would greatly increase the safety in our residential agricultural neighborhood. So to sum up, we're asking that you consider our requests and approve, firstly, a creation of a three-way stop at the corner of the baseline and the 8th concession. Secondly, a reduction of the speed limit to 50 kilometers an hour on the baseline from the 6th, hopefully just a little past the 8th concession. And thirdly, hopefully consider repairing and possibly resurfacing the roadway as required. I'm not sure if my neighbors have anything to add. We have some pictures here just so that you can have an idea.
Good evening. My name's Palma Van de Gevel. My husband and I own the farm on the northwest corner of Baseline. We own another farm on Concession 2. We rent land in the area. We have a lot of large equipment that we're traveling on Baseline with, tractors, combines, large equipment that takes up a great deal of the road. And that intersection, coming out of that intersection from our property and trying to make a right or a left on the Baseline is very difficult. You know, my big loader tractor has to go out halfway into the intersection, and if somebody's traveling southbound, I'm in the intersection with a large tractor hauling a big piece of equipment. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, I was going to Dolores's, and I'm out in the intersection, I'm looking, and a pure layer truck just suddenly appeared barreling down the highway. And our equipment takes up a lot of space on the road, and it just seems to be safer for everybody if there is at least a three-way stop sign. My daughter-in-law and my granddaughter, that right here, they rent Mrs. Ray's farm. They are crossing the road on a daily basis to feed the cows over there. And a lot of the time, my daughter-in-law has to take her granddaughter in the tractor with her, and it just concerns me coming that way to Mrs. Ray's and back again across the intersection. The sight line is very poor either direction, and it just concerns me that she has her daughter in the tractor, and for her own sake too. So I think it's just a safety issue for everybody that there be a three-way stop sign there, and reduce the speed, at least in that stretch of roadway. Because with our equipment, there are some blind hills, and if people are traveling too fast, we appear in front of them with a tractor and a seed drill that's taking up 3/4 of the road. So it's I think in everyone's best interest and safety that you consider this for us.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members of council, are there any questions of the delegation? Okay, I'm not seeing any. I'm wondering if council would consider that this issue should go before our Director of Infrastructure and Public Works, in addition to our Chief of Police. I think there's a lot more discussion. Attention needs to be paid. Let's see what gets resolved to this. I think it was very important that you came before council with your concerns, and I think it lends itself to further discussion for resolve. That's okay right there. But thank you very much, Dolores. And I note that Councillor Hutchinson either has a statement or a question.
Well, just a question, just looking at and knowing this area, that right now there are stop signs that are at the corner when you're heading west onto base, from the west, heading east onto Baseline, right? So
Yes.
there is a corner, it's just there's no stop signs going north and south.
Right.
Right, right, yeah. Right, right, okay, right. Well, speed is always a concern, and yes, farm traffic on any of our roads is always a concern with people trying to get around machinery and so on. So I would like to, like our mayor said, talk to our director of infrastructure. He has some traffic studies too, which we might be able to refer to. Yes. But again, talking to our roads superintendent would be worthwhile. So that's something we should look at and consider, and we've heard your concern for sure.
Yeah.
It's not just a way of cultural.
Sure.
No.
Sure.
Yep. That section. The blues are basically farm properties, the red is just residential.
Good. Well, thank you for that schematic. Yes, well, very good, and I'm glad you're represented here for the delegation. It's essential and very important. All right, well, we thank you. It will be brought forward to our Director of Infrastructure Public Works, our police chief, so we will be in that dialogue and connecting back with you on this. So thank you very much for your delegation. We really appreciate it. You're quite welcome. So that's it. Your issue will not be addressed any further tonight. So you're welcome to stay if you wish, or casually leave, whatever your preference is, okay? Yes, okay, yes. Thank you for being here. Okay, good night now. Okay, I'm just going to send this down. All right, so item 11, members of council, is business arising from the previous meeting. There's nothing, NA. We're now down to item 12, which is staff reports. We only have two. We're starting with the Director of Finance and Treasurer. As usual, I go over and say, Director of Finance and Treasurer, do you have any comments on your first item, which is approval of voucher number... Let me see, are we already on number 6 on this? 6.6-2019. Anything to start with?
Yeah, just, it does look like it's high, but it does
Yes.
have over $2.2 million of remittances that go to the county and school boards in this voucher as well. So that's our first of 4 installments that we pay. But if there's any other questions.
Okay, looking to the left and the right, starting with Councillor Townsend, please.
We collect, there's the regular tax levy. We collect it on behalf of the school board and the county. So we remit that to them 4 times a year. So this is the first of the quarterly installments. There's also payments in there for supplementary taxes and write-offs netted. So if we owe the school boards or the county for any new assessments that have been, we're paying back their share to them or remitting their share of those new assessments billed throughout the year.
Okay, thank you. On page 6, just checking the account, it's Department 3000. There was also a $20,948 payment that was to Minto. I'm assuming that's for roadworks, is that correct?
No, it's not road works, it's for municipal drainage works. Part of our road would benefit that's in that drainage area from the water, surface water being, just like a farmer's, surface water being redirected into the appropriate drainage ditches. So we get assessed for our share of that, so that's what that represents. But it's not actual on-road work, it's all associated with the drainage work.
Okay, one other question, and that is on page 12, which is in the landfill. There's some landfill expenses. Can you tell me, do we have revenues that show up in the voucher for the recycling that we dispose of?
Not in the voucher here, those are just the expenses only. We get a separate payment from the contractor for actual recycling revenues. So it wouldn't show up on this voucher. It's only the expense portion that shows up on this.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good. Those are insightful questions. Further questions, members of council? Councillor Hutchinson.
Just a couple of questions. The tax sale registration fee, that's recouped when the tax sale goes through. Is that how that works, Carrie?
Yes. Yeah, we charge that to the property, and then if it gets to the point where the tax sale, or if the property owner pays it off before it gets to a tax sale, that would be paid by the property owner at that time.
And there seems to be a number of them. Is that sort of typical type thing? I remember how many we've had per year, but...
Yeah, we've been working at trying to reduce our tax arrears balances, so we've been doing them in batches. So this is sort of the next group of ones that are in arrears that we're sending into the...
Okay. And on page 59, sorry, page 56, 11 on yours, landfill training, there's a landfill operations basic training by Swana, Ontario chapter. I'm just curious what that was. Do you know, Carrie, offhand? I don't know if it had something to do with maybe our new scales? Landfill training? Swana, Ontario. It's page 11 on here. Under landfill.
Yeah, so part of that is the operation of the weigh scales, yeah. So Tammy and the 2 landfill attendants have also taken them.
Okay, all right. I thought maybe it had something to do with that. Okay, and There was a question on page 59, page 15 on yours regarding the Recreation Lamlash Hall utilities. Yeah, I guess it's because of the way utilities were charged there. Like February 16th, we were charged $281. This is all under Recreation Lamlash Hall. And then February 21st, we were charged $72.24, and 27th, we were charged $110. Now, I'm thinking utilities, I'm thinking hydro. I'm just wondering why there was three in a row.
Furnace oil.
Furnace oil.
Yeah, it's furnace oil. So there was three deliveries of furnace oil. So
They
it's
must
three
have ran
different
out or something
tickets.
Yeah, okay. I'm just curious why there was three in a row there. And then just a point of, under hydro charges, and I didn't write down what page it is, but it's under our Durham Arena, our hydro charge, well, for the month, and I think these are monthly, our charges, was $8,000. Our sewage treatment plant was $7,000. Our Ayton Arena was $7,500. I'm just thinking that maybe we need to take a serious look as a council of getting in the energy business, and maybe we need to put some solar panels on our buildings, which we've talked about, and we maybe need to look at that generating station in our middle dam, which we've also talked about. So some way of getting our hydro back. We pay a lot of money in hydro when you start, and that's only 3 buildings. It would be nice maybe if we were making some money on it besides
agreed.
spending all that money. So just a thought.
No, very good thought. I'm going to do another look over here. Anything further? All right, I do have a motion then. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Jeffrey Shea. Be it resolved that the Director of Finance and Treasurer be authorized to pay the accounts presented as voucher number 6-2019 in the amount of $2,689,177.66 of the Municipality of West Grey. Stopping for questions, seeing none. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you for that. Item 2, Director, is Court Security and Prisoner Transportation Program. I know there's a related proposed bylaw further in the agenda. Would you like to start the discussion, please?
Yeah, so this is being brought forward in that bylaw later in the meeting. The police chief has reviewed it as well. So it has been reduced from prior years, which seems to be the theme in our provincial grants announcements lately, but it is still a bit of money towards that they can use towards their cost
Yeah,
for
that's
prisoner
right.
transportation.
Yep, it all counts, for sure. Questions? Certainly, Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I just had a question with that. It sounds like this is the last year that this we'll have to pay, and then it's going to be uploaded, the cost of prisoner transportation. That's the way I read
This is
that.
the grant that we're receiving.
That'll be the last year that we receive the grant, I think, is the way it reads.
The
right?
way that it sounds, yeah.
Okay. That was interesting that we received the grant, it was $600 or $700 or something, but also we have to provide a $5 million liability coverage on that. I'm just wondering how much would we pay our insurance for $500 million liability?
Yeah, there's no extra cost for it. It's just we have to provide a certificate of insurance naming the province, which is typical in any grant and any agreement that you sign. There is usually an insurance clause that we have to name them as an insured. So that's a typical, but there's no extra charge. We just get the insurance carrier to provide us with a certificate of insurance naming the Queen and the province and whichever ministry.
Okay, so it all falls in under the same, but, okay, thank you.
Clerk Turner, did you have a comment for that? No? Okay. Anything further? All right. No questions? All right, do I have a motion? No, okay, so nothing. So, Director Mighton, would you be here during the passage of the bylaws? Okay, so you're here if there is anything further. All right. So we will just leave that one for now. Thank you. Well, then we're on to the second report of the night, which is the clerk. Pardon me? There's a third item? Oh, for goodness sakes, yes, there is a third item. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. Yes, we have a third item. Ontario Municipal Partnership Fund, OMPF allocation. How did I miss that? Okay, Director Mighton.
Yes, more unfortunate news. Our OMPF allocation, which is our unconditional grant for 2019, has been reduced by 110,700. So I'm just seeking some council direction. This is information that has just been released as of Thursday or Friday last week, so it's after we had sort of been through our budget process, so just looking for direction.
So we're looking at having this discussion on March 22nd, and I do have a motion before me just to formalize that. That just keeps everything really appropriate so that we've got this on the books and through the minutes that we're holding this additional meeting of the budget. Okay, so any questions? Yes, please go ahead, Councillor
Maybe not
Hutchinson.
so much a question, but a comment. Thought it was interesting that the statement was made by our Conservative government that there would not be any change this year in our UMP funding. So going ahead, doing our budget, giving the idea that we're going to receive, and I think it's about $1.5 million that our UMP fund is, about 1.5. And then as you read through that, it says, oh no, by the way, 100% doesn't necessarily mean 100%, it means 91%. So we receive 91% of our funding, which to me doesn't mean quite the same as being not making any changes. So it's a little confusing, but now we get to go back and visit our budget and come up with another 100,000, I guess is what it's saying. So unfortunate.
Yes, I do have dialogue scheduled with our MPP for tomorrow evening, so I will be articulating council's concerns and obviously having a more detailed discussion on that. Councillor Shea and then Councillor Hamilton, please.
Yes, I'm glad you'll be following up with our
Absolutely.
MPP on that, and I'm looking forward to discussing this in one more budget meeting. But I did want to point out, possibly in this context, that it seemed that of all the Grey County municipalities, that we were the only one that got cut, that everyone else got increases. I believe one other was cut, but a much smaller amount, like $8,000 compared to our 100 and something thousand.
Yeah.
So I'm very eager to figure out how that math worked to our
Absolutely.
detriment.
Yes. Councillor Hamilton?
Question for our director. Is there a way to appeal the way that they've come to this number?
Not really.
Okay.
They provide workbooks with all the information as to how all the different data points, but it's based on, MPAC and Stats Canada and different things. But certainly when we review it, if we thought there was an error, perhaps, but there's no real formal appeal mechanism.
Okay. And if you have this information at hand, do you have any comment about why we were cut 110,000, but some of our peer municipalities didn't see a cut?
Again, it kind of depends on their individual data points. I'm still working through some of the information. I won't have specific details to dig really deep into anyone else's, but our 2019 workbooks haven't been distributed specifically with our data points for this year, but I'll take a look overall at a high level in the 3 categories that we get the funding for and just see if there's anything that jumps out.
Okay. And then just a comment to say, I'm thankful we have the opportunity to visit this in our budget before our budget's finalized. That's a good opportunity for us. We're not trying to find it after the fact. So I'm thankful for this extra meeting on Friday. Thank you.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Just add a comment on that. So it'd be interesting, Carrie, if we look back at other years, how is this unusual to get this kind of cut or change? You said some of them are only small amounts. What's the history on that in terms of this funding in the past? Has it changed much, fluctuated at this point before?
For individual municipalities, it has. I know some of our neighbors had seen significant decreases in other years where we were more stable or saw a slight increase. So it really depends on individual changes in those data points year over year on any given, because it's all the same factors. It's just how years have changed each year.
Okay. Councillor Townsend.
Yeah, I found it interesting when you go to the section that talks about the data inputs, and there's all kinds of references as we're compared to the median. And in many cases, we're below it, other cases, we're above it. And somehow, I'm not quite sure what happened, but it ultimately gets to the point where there's an area where it says farmland ratio to your full scape. And I think that was 68 or 70%, which I would assume would let them know that your assessment's down, you don't have the same urban group, et cetera, and it has not applicable. And I'm thinking, how can you not be applicable when you've got, 872 square kilometers of space, and 68.5% of that is farmland rather than urban, and it's not applicable to look at that ratio. So I'm concerned with the process. I'd already talked to the treasurer to see if there was any other explanation. I went through the materials that she graciously distributed, but the process is so complicated you can't even figure out how they got there or why they would do such a thing. But I think it's worth asking to make sure we understand the process more fully. And if there are errors in it, we can identify them. But if you don't understand the process, you can't even identify whether you've made a mistake or an omission. So,
Good point.
thank you.
You're quite welcome. Further? All right, well then I'll go for the motion before me, moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby schedules a Committee of the Whole budget meeting for March 22nd, 2019, 9 a.m. at the West Grey Municipal Office. Questions? If any, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Okay. Turner? Okay. All right, with that, we have completed the items on the Director of Finance and Treasurer's report. Just kind of looking over there in case there's another one that's just going to jump out on. Thank you. All right, with that, we now go to the clerk's report. The first item is Siskins/law firm. Clerk Turner, would you like to start the discussion?
So Paul Gutsky owns a plan of subdivision that's draft approved in the village of Neustadt. And through his lawyers, the law firm of Siskins, they are requesting up to a 3-year extension of draft plan approval. Now the county actually gives approval, but the county does look to the municipality for direction and guidance in terms of what they feel is appropriate. Back in 2017, the former West Grey Council supported a 2-year extension, whereas a 3-year extension was requested. So I'm looking for direction. Mr. Gutsky, the subdivision is an older subdivision, been draft approved for a number of decades. We have hoped that development would have occurred by now, but for various reasons it hasn't. I know Mr. Gutsky wants to meet with staff and the mayor to discuss some other options for the property he owns. But I'm looking for direction from council on this matter. A resolution would be appropriate for one form or another.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Townsend.
Would it make sense not to have that discussion before we approve any extensions? Because if the use is going to be different, then I would assume the approval that the person would be looking for would be different as well. So just a question for you and the clerk.
Clerk Turner?
The extension deadline is April 16th. If it's not extended, then basically the developers that's back to square one has to start the process all over again. So it would be appropriate, depending on council's viewpoint, to extend it given the time constraints, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 years. There is a cost to the developer to extend the draft plan approval. They submit an application to the county. It's $870. So there's a bit of a cost to extend it. So if it's 1 year, then you'll be back 1 year later paying that cost. But it's really a determinant of council. And again, we want to see this happen, and hopefully it won't be too long. But there are some points of discussion Mr. Gutsky wants to have with the municipality.
Further? You're good. Councillor Shea, and then Deputy Mayor.
Is there, are you able to recap what the logic was in reducing the previous request from 3 years to 2 years? And is there any reason that we wouldn't just approve this? I don't see any downside to us approving it.
There have been some initiative by the former council because there hasn't been any development on the property, and there was some direction to send letters, which was done in 2017 or late 2016, to another subdivision that's approved, draft approved in Neustadt as well, to see, which was in a similar circumstance, approved for decades, nothing happening. So there was some feedback requested, and then there's some new information forthcoming from Mr. Goodsey that he's looking at, he owns additional lands and he's looking at potential options there that might, in his opinion, facilitate or make it more economically feasible to develop perhaps not only the draft approved lands, but the other lands if there's certain approvals given or provided for. So that's the direction. Council wanted to see something happen, the former council, so they limited the time frame in perhaps an attempt to indicate that they're anxious to get development going and they don't want to delay it too much further.
Further? Okay, Deputy Mayor.
I was going to move that we go for a 2-year extension with Mr. Goodsey.
Okay, I will keep that as an indication. I'm just circling if there's other questions. Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, whether it's 2-year or 3-year, I don't think that's the issue. I think it's that we have a new council, and I think Mr. Goodsey, I'd like to see him come forward and tell us about his plans. It's been a long time in the works, and I'd like to see something happen in there. So I think it would be good if he would come forward and meet with our staff and meet with our clerk. And maybe it'd be worthwhile having the county planners down at that time to discuss with him, because I know that's happened in the past, and there's a lot of history there. Yeah, I think it's time to, hopefully he'll come forward and make something happen. So I'd like to see us extended and
Pass it down.
get something going.
Okay, thank you. Further? Nothing further? Just waiting on a motion then. Thank you. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Shea. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby supports a 2-year extension of draft plan approval for the Paul Goodsey draft plan of subdivision 42-T-91011 by the County of Grey. Questions? Calling the question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Thank you, Clerk Turner. Moving on to the second item, which is the Town of Saugeen Shores. Clerk Turner?
So in deliberation with our Director of Finance, I am recommending that this correspondence be received for information. Basically, the Town of Saugeen Shores was trying to bring forward the recreational funding aspect of this grant money, and the municipality really doesn't have substantial capital requirement needs for their recreational facilities. And in fact, it's kind of a moot point because the first part has already been just released for northern and rural communities. So I would just recommend this be received for information.
Questions? Councillor Shea.
So things like a $60,000 compressor wouldn't count as a substantial capital cost?
Sure. It would also delay your replacement of it before your ice time. Asking for them to change the submission deadline, like right now, one program's open in the fall, the recreation one will be open. By the time those funding are announced, you're now probably looking at a 2020, or at least after your ice has already been in, so you wouldn't be able to do it until the spring of 2020. So if it was something that...
The chance that they would change their policies based on this submission is quite small. This is and this is taking money out of an existing pot, the gas tax. Is that right?
No, this is a, yeah, it's a $30 billion fund that they've announced, but...
So it's an existing $30 billion fund that they would just want to see spread more into more categories. Is that right?
I think so.
4 different funding models, and recreation's the one, but again, I think there's probably some others that...
But it doesn't include like roads and bridges.
First one is roads and bridges.
Oh.
That's the one that just was released March 18th, yesterday. So I'm still reading through some of the parameters surrounding that, but that one has been announced. That one is open, and it's open for an 8-week period. But the rest will be announced later when those intakes will be.
Clerk Turner?
Thank you.
If I stand correct, you will be bringing forward a report on that?
Yeah. Yes, we'll be watching for that. Anything further? Okay. Anything further? All right, so we're just receiving for information then? Okay. Moving on, flip the page because there is another item. And this is the recommendation from the March 5th, 2019 West Grey Committee of the Whole meeting. This is the potential for renaming the walkway bridge. Deputy Mayor, then Councillor Townsend. Please go ahead.
Well, I'd like to make a motion that we defer the name of any public assets until such a policy is brought before council for full review. So I'm opposed to naming any assets. Thank you.
So I will take that as an indication of a motion, but I'm going to take any comments or questions before that, and anything that the clerk might want to say further. Councillor Townsend.
Yeah, I just wanted to report back. One of the conditions, if you will, was, and I'll read it, it says, subject to review by Durham Walkway Heritage Bridge Committee. And I don't think they've actually formally responded to that. So I followed up last evening with the acting president of the Lions to get some direction as to where they're going. And that's Pat Morton, for folks who don't know.
Sure.
She gave me two comments. The first one was that she doesn't, from her perspective, the Lions will not worry about whether or not we name the bridge. That's something that's entirely up to us. It's our asset, et cetera.
Could you repeat that? Sorry.
Yeah, the Lions are not concerned about whether we name it per se.
Okay.
That's our responsibility. It's our asset. But her comments got into the fact that they're in the middle of a project to look at the rest of the design, as Mr. Pfeffer pointed out. And what they don't want us to do is give them a design for what's going to happen. That's their first comment. They would like to build in whatever the council wants into the design, but with their consideration of the whole activity and project, not just one item. So they want it to flow. They don't want it to be different and stand out in a non-conforming type way with the entire design.
Okay.
So that was the first comment. Second comment was not dissimilar from Mr. Pfeffer's, in the sense that they felt that there was other opportunities if we wanted to give naming rights to such a large asset that perhaps we haven't considered. I know Pat Morton has a lot of experience in fundraising and things of that nature, and I'm sure she's thinking along that way. And like she said, if you pay enough, you even get your name on a building in Owen Sound, as an example. So she's saying there's lots of opportunity around that. Maybe we're missing a point here that we haven't considered, but that's entirely up to us. So I committed to Pat that I would report back her comments and her feedback at this session, and that's what I've done. So I'm just sharing that with council. So.
Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. Councillor Shea, Councillor Herger, for now.
So I also spoke to some people involved with the Lions about this, and I do believe that there was some misunderstanding between the original proponent of this idea about what the Lions were doing, and that I do think it's incumbent on us to sort of respect the activity that is being undertaken there. And so I think we do need to consult more fully with all of the parties that are involved. And so I agree with the Deputy Mayor's idea that we should defer and slow this down, but I would like to go on record as saying that I do support the idea of naming an asset in remembrance of somebody who dedicated to municipal affairs on a level that was above and beyond. All of us are going to serve a term or 3 or 4. There aren't many of us that are going to serve 41, 43 years in this position. So I do think that the particular individual who was brought forward was exceptional, and I am fully in favor of naming historical and important assets within our control after locally significant personalities. I don't like the idea that we are going to call something, the such and such public school A, or something like that. I do believe that we should be naming things after people who we want to be remembered in history. And that act of naming is part of the creation of history. Durham isn't named Durham for no reason. So I think we should continue the tradition of naming things for things that or people that we consider important. But I do think that we are sort of rushing a little bit here and should defer the process.
Okay. Thank you for those comments. Councillor Hergert, please.
I also went to the meeting with the Lions Group. We were trying to convey that the bridge is our municipal asset. We had a delegation. Is there some way of incorporating possibly into a donor wall? We had that discussion. Again, they're investing, they being the Lions Group, is investing a lot of money into a civic center, a civic square that we could all be very proud of. One of the items would be that they're looking for recognition as well. So there have been lots of volunteers, lots of donors. I'm really hoping that we could push for a policy, and I've seconded that motion.
Okay, I see that. Thank you. Any questions down here? Any further questions then? Councillor Hamilton then, please.
I have a question for our clerk. In your memory, can you recall a time where West Grey has named a significant asset?
Yes. Treasure shaking on my head. No, I know in Bentic there's a creek, and it was named after David Aljo, and his memory had lost his life in a hunting accident. I do recall that, the township of Bentic.
Councillor Hergert, please.
There are bridges locally that are named after former representatives in West Grey, yes, in Normanby.
Okay.
So there's one on concession 18, just east of Grey Road 10, Grey Bruce Road 10, and that would bear the name of yours truly, Mr. Wayne Peffer. So there are bridges,
nice.
there are assets. We have no policy.
Right.
When do we do, when
Yeah.
don't we do? That's all I'm
Yeah.
looking for.
Totally get it. Good question. Anything further, Councillor Hamilton?
Yeah, just to acknowledge that I wholeheartedly supported this at committee of the whole after hearing the delegation, and delegation that was thoughtful, had engaged the community and had sought donations and funding and had thought it through. However, I've also heard some concerns following that delegation from the community, so I've been listening. And I'd summarize the concerns as being we should have a policy first. Another concern would be concerned for disconnecting ourselves from that historical rail significance of that bridge. And another concern, which we heard here today as well, is careful not to diminish the contribution of others in our community. So how can we recognize we're so rich in volunteers here in time and talent, and finding ways very thoughtfully to move forward, recognize, making space to recognize members in our community. And so while, my goodness, 42 years of public service, I would certainly like to continue to support this request, but I do concur. I think hitting the pause button and having more wholesome discussion and arriving at a policy that sits well for all of council and our community, it makes sense. So you have my support.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchinson.
Yeah, I agree. I think I don't have a problem with using putting names on buildings and whatnot. I think it would be good to have a policy and look at what we have out there. We have discussed in the past, as the previous council talked about, naming rights, and if Durham Furniture wanted to give us $2 or $3 million to put their name on the Durham Arena, I think we should look at that seriously. So there's opportunities out there that maybe there are some things out there that we could take in some money to put a name on a building, but this is a different situation with Carroll on the Walkway Bridge. So I'd be willing to take some time and look at our policy and then go forward from there, for sure.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Townsend, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to be clear, what I reported earlier was to represent Pat Morden on behalf of the Lions, her opinion as acting president. From a personal perspective, I do believe, as other people have said, 42 years of service, public service, whatever service is appropriate to recognize. And it wasn't just at council, it was personal time, personal effort. There wasn't a clock, there wasn't an on and off switch. You know, it happened continually. And I also don't think that the public should misunderstand that it's only councillors that get recognized. They don't, it's others as well. And I think that's as important as not. This just happens to be a citizen that was a councillor, but did things beyond that over that 42 years. So I would still support some form of recognition, and I'm sure we'll get there.
Okay, very good discussion. Anything further before I read the motion and then call the question? Okay, perfect. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Herger. Be it resolved that the Council of the Municipality of West Grey hereby approves withholding the naming of any municipal facilities after individuals or organizations until a facilities naming policy is endorsed by Council, subject to public consultation. Question? Questions, that is. Councillor Shea.
Was the motion not defer rather than withhold? Or am I splitting hairs here?
Clerk Turner, would you like to respond procedurally to that inquiry?
So the recommendation came from the Committee of the Whole, so obviously that isn't being supported at this point, so the resolution, I believe, would be in order if that's the direction of council.
Okay, clear? Good. Thank you for the procedural comment. All right, calling the question if there are no other questions. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Okay, I believe with that, Clerk Turner, we are now on bylaws. Yes. Just be a moment. So we are on item 13, proposed bylaws, first, second, and third reading. We are starting with proposed bylaw 21-2019. I'll just get a moment. We're putting them in. Is it the 19 we're missing? Yes. Okay. I'll just wait one moment. Oh, okay. Okay, good. All right. Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 21-2019 being a bylaw to enter into an Ontario transfer payment agreement between Her Majesty the Queen in Right of Ontario as represented by the Minister of Community, Safety and Correctional Services and the Municipality of West Grey. Be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation and engrossed in the bylaw book. Questions? Questions, Councillor Hergert?
This is $648. There's a lot of reporting that we have to do for this 4 times a year? Just 1 time a year next year. Okay. Okay. I'd be hopeful for more money next time.
Yeah, fingers crossed. But point taken. Further questions? Calling the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? It does carry. Thank you. This is dealing with proposed bylaw 22-2019. Moved by Councillor Shea, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 22-2019 being a bylaw to implement condition of consent B10/2018 by rezoning part lots 5 to 7, concession 3 SDR, geographic township of Normanby, in brackets Wally David Schaus, owner, Ben Ryer, applicant, Questa Planning Consultants, Inc., agent, ZA-16-18. We now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, engrossed in the bylaw book. Clerk Turner, do you just want to give a summary on when this was before our planning?
It was recommended for approval by the Committee of the Whole Planning during the March 12th meeting.
Questions? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. So proposed bylaw 23-2019, moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that bylaw number 23-2019 being a bylaw to implement a condition of consent, B15/2017, by rezoning Part Lot 17, Concession 21, WGR, Geographic Township of Bentic, Aberdeen Farms Limited, owner, A.E. Robinson applicant, ZA-21-18, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Clerk Turner.
The legal description should be amended to read Part Lot 17, Concession 1, WGR, and Part Lot 39, Concession 2, WGR.
Okay, so do you
Amend that
need...
accordingly, if that's okay with council?
All right, so it'll be as amended. Questions? Calling the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Okay, thank you. So that was 23. Proposed bylaw 24-2019. Yep. Moved by Councillor Shea, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 24-2019, being a bylaw to establish a site plan control area bylaw on lands described as Plan 513, Lot 14, Arthur E/S 734 Arthur Street, Village of Ayton, Geographic Township of Normanby, Ayton Pentecostal Church, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Clerk Turner, what meeting was this at, and do you have anything further?
So again, the zoning bylaw, which will be dealt with, bylaw 27 of 2019. When the Committee of the Whole Planning met on March 12th, they recommended both the approval of the rezoning application subject to the property being entering into a site plan control area bylaw, meaning it requires a site plan agreement and site plan approval by council before any kind of development would occur. So both these bylaws are on tonight's agenda for consideration of approval.
Thank you. Councillor Hutchinson.
I'm just curious, did all the, there seemed to be a lot of moving parts there. Did the new ownership get switched over? Because while we're dealing with that, they talked about a new owner, a different owner applying for the application than the original owner.
So there's no new owner at this stage. There is a new prospective owner. As you may note in the top of the bylaws, I only refer to the Ayton Pentecostal Church
Yes.
being the owner. I don't refer to the applicant, who is the individual that was formerly interested in purchasing the property, but is no longer interested.
Okay, so we don't need to have that. Okay.
Councillor Hergert, then Councillor Townsend, please.
Go ahead.
Councillor Townsend?
Yes, I just wanted to point out, if you recall, I declared a conflict of interest at the Committee of the Whole Planning meeting, basically because the previous owner that was named as the applicant was a friend, and I'd consulted with them on the matter. Because that has now changed, that is why I do not have to declare a conflict today, and I just wanted to make that clear for the record.
Okay, thank you. Clerk Turner, did you have a comment? I'm not certain.
I can't give direction whether or not you should declare a conflict, but if it is of the same issue, you may want to consider that.
Councillor Hergert.
Okay, I just needed my page number here. On page 134,
Sure.
which is actually the 27 bylaw, there's a difference in the legal description being the plan number, 513 or 153. Could you clarify that? And then just if it's as amended, I'd be okay to pass.
Okay, thank you.
Just seeing as how they both relate to the
Oh,
same.
It should be
absolutely.
Plan 513, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so the motion I read said 513, okay? Okay. Further comments or questions? Calling the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carries. Proposed bylaw 25, 2019. Yes. Moved by Councillor Hamilton, seconded by Councillor Hutchinson. Be it resolved that bylaw number 25-2019, being a bylaw to enter into shared service agreement between the Township of Chatsworth and the Municipality of West Grey to share the costs of enforcement and the appointment of a chief building official and inspectors, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation and engrossed in the bylaw book. Clerk Turner, any comment? Or CIO Johnson? Nothing? All right. Questions? Councillor Herger.
I just have one little typo.
Oh, yes, please.
Complement under section 2.1, just being spelled differently. Also curious on 2.2 if we've received a vehicle out of our previous building services agreement and how that relates to the purchasing of any new vehicle.
CIO Johnson?
Through you, Madam Mayor, thank you for the question. We haven't finalized the dissolution of the former partnership, so that's something that we're arranging to have that done, and we'll see where we land, but we haven't received a vehicle yet.
Yes,
Are we
please.
planning on purchasing one right away? There will be inspections. Is there a time period in which we're going to allow mileage instead of an inspection?
Right, and through you, Madam Mayor, we are compensating by mileage right now.
Okay. Now, with regard to the, just the typo, if you will, on the agreement, could you clarify? Yeah, good for you. No, that's good. Clerk Turner, do I need to read this as amended? Then
Just be passed as amended.
passed. Okay, so we'll just note as amended. So with that, anything further? Let's move this on. Calling the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. And that change will be noted in the agreement. Thank you, Councillor Herger. Okay. So this is now proposed bylaw 26-2019. Moved by Councillor Herger, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Be it resolved that bylaw number 26-2019, being a bylaw to approve and authorize the execution of a boundary road agreement between the Municipality of West Grey and the Township of Chatsworth, and this repeals bylaw number 9-2018, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation and engrossed in the bylaw book. Questions? Yes, please. Councillor Herger.
The Chatsworth boundary agreement?
Yeah,
actually on the
Township
Chatsworth
of
building.
Chatsworth.
On the building agreement. It was 25, sorry.
25 we're done.
Okay, great.
Okay. That was with regards to the shared service, and this is now, yep, that's, clarifications are always welcome. All right, further questions? Calling the question, all those in favor? Opposed, if any, does carry. Oops. Which one is this?
Passed as amended with the change in the plan number.
Passed as amended. Okay, so now we're dealing with proposed bylaw 27-2019. Moved by Councillor Hutchinson, seconded by Councillor Hamilton. Be it resolved that bylaw number 27-2019, being a bylaw to rezone plan 153 Lot 14, Arthur E/S, 73 Arthur Street, Village of Ayton, Geographic Township of Normanby, in brackets Ayton, Pentecost. Why am I reading this again, Clerk Turner?
That's the rezoning.
Oh, the rezoning, okay. It just sounded extremely, yeah, extremely, yes, of course, that's the second phase. So I do apologize, I'll regroup. You know who moved and seconded. Be it resolved that the bylaw number 27-2019, being a bylaw to rezone Plan 153, Lot 14, Arthur E/S, 734 Arthur Street, Village of Ayton, Geographic Township of Normanby, Ayton Pentecostal Church, ZA 01-19, be now read a third time, passed as amended and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Clerk Turner, any other comments with regard to this? Okay, questions? Councillor
The
Herger.
plan is just 513 on the legal description.
513, okay, confirmed. All right, further? All right, call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any, does carry. All right, so that's 27. Clerk Turner, we still have an in-camera session to attend to. I know we're going to move up the items, but is it prudent to pass the confirming bylaw in advance? Okay, that's all I needed to know. Moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Councillor Herger. Be it resolved that bylaw number 28-2019, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the March 19, 2019 council meeting, be now read a first, second, and third time, passed and numbered, and that the said bylaw be signed by the mayor and clerk, sealed with the seal of the corporation, and engrossed in the bylaw book. Questions, if any? All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. Thank you. All right. New business, item 14. Councillor Herger.
So this is the one that I was hoping that we could have a supporting resolution on up to the
Yeah.
county as it relates to vacant commercial and the agricultural rate. I just think a supporting resolution to take with you might be helpful and supportive on up at the county. We have heard from the Ontario Federation of Agriculture the impact that the agriculture assessment changing 25% made a very significant impact on their operation. The other thing is the vacant commercial discount, if we may. We have tried to promote economic development. I am so excited about a new group of volunteers and people on that committee. We also have some part to play in this, and our local part is to say that our downtowns are very important. And because they're very important, we want them full. We want business going, we want it to be lively, we want to capture a full assessment on commercial properties. So that being said, I would like the support of council that at least we send that up to the county and say, we've talked about it. I know, Doug, we've been talking about this for several years. I know there's other support around the county on both the ag and the vacant commercial tax rates. So I would just be looking for council support that we show we are supportive of our downtowns. We're supportive of agriculture in our community and move this up to the county that just to show our support.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, last year I attended an Ontario Federation of Agriculture meeting. I think it was the Grey Federation of Agriculture, and that was most of the discussion was on the farm tax and the impact it has on the farmer. So that meeting and the comments from our local farmers really resonated with me, and it brought back a lot of the concerns and issues. Having attended that politicians meeting not too long ago, a week ago or whatever, on the Saturday. So yeah, I think we need the discussion. I'm wondering if this would be more appropriate if we had a full discussion at our committee of the whole, so that we have a complete understanding. We have some new members of council on, and whether that discussion, which would be on the 26th, would be appropriate. And I'm turning to our Director of Finance and Treasurer. Do you have an idea of when this issue is coming before County Council? It may be on the 28th, but I just wondered if you had confirmation.
Yeah, no, I did reach out to the Grey County Treasurer, and it is tax policy decisions are scheduled for April 11th, Committee of the Whole at Grey County. So it does give us enough time to review, and I can go through at the Committee of the Whole some explanations of the impact of tax ratios, the sensitivity. When you move one, where does it go? Naturally, it's on residential, so you have an impact of the other half of your ratepayers that you're impacting, not just the one group of them. So we can sort of look at that so you have all the information before you make that decision.
Great. I'm glad that the timing works out. Even if it was condensed, we'd still have that opportunity. And, you know, having the discussion at Committee of the Whole so that we have an appreciation of the matter before us makes a lot of sense. Certainly having a resolution, if you will, representing West Grey Council's position on this is what I feel would be very effective, taking that back up to the county. So really great. Councillor Shea.
I understand, Kerry, that there was an opportunity for the county to petition the province to change the vacant commercial designation last year, it was a certain window and the window closed, and that it was perceived by the county that there wasn't an appetite for some reason at that time, and that there does seem to be an appetite at this time amongst all the lower tier municipalities, and that somehow that decision or that identification of appetite happens through the treasurers?
Not necessarily through the treasurers, but it is a topic that we discuss when we meet. We meet about twice a year, and it was one of the items that we discussed. And from listening to our current councillors, our council members, other lower tiers are also hearing from their groups, their council, that there's an interest in it as well. Ultimately, it is a county voted decision, and it is the council members that sit at the county table that make that decision. But last year, it wasn't acted upon, but there does seem to be an appetite for it this year. What we don't know is the province hasn't announced an intake yet. Last year there was 2, May and October. I could have my dates wrong, but this government hasn't announced an intake yet for 2019, so we're still waiting for that. But they may still have the discussion that if the intake does open up, then the county would be in a position that they would have something to go forward.
Good. Okay. Thank you for bringing that forward, Councillor Herger. Very good. Anything further? All right. So we're off new business. Sure, Councillor Shea.
So I just wanted to, I'm making a list of things to bring up in our procedural bylaw review at some point in the future, specifically around the presentation of bylaws in this meeting, council meetings. When we present planning bylaws, like we just did, presenting 3 or 4 of them, I think it's very hard for people in television land or people here in the audience to really understand what we're talking about. And I think it would be nice if we could have like a 1-sentence summary of what this bylaw is about, as we often do to ourselves before we vote at the Committee of the Whole planning. I mean, we all know what it's about, but just to communicate a summary. So I'll be bringing that up when we do the procedure bylaw review.
Good, very good. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. Certainly all members of council, as we move along with this procedural bylaw, note that. Any changes or suggestions? All right. Item 15, addendum. I'm not seeing anything on the addendum. Item 16, notice of motion, direct motion. Nothing before us, correct, Clerk Turner? Okay, all right. So I'm going to skip over item 17, which is closed session incomplete, because we will be going back into closed session. Item 18 as well, matters arising from closed session, which it relates to incomplete items. Again, I'm skipping over that. So that takes us over to item 19, question period. Anyone in the audience wish to ask a question? Mr. Miller?
Thank you, Mayor Robinson and Council. As you know, or as you found out tonight, you're $100,000 short yet on your budget, so these are things to watch for. And also, as you know, I am not much of a fan of lawyers and engineers. I'm lesser of a fan of consultants. In the accounts here tonight, there was an invoice from a consultant for what, I don't know, for $3,277. I was kind of wondering what that would be for, because I never seen a resolution anyplace authorizing that, but it happened, obviously.
We will get you the answer to that. Do you need any more information on that before?
I believe it was a HR consultant, Ward and Upgrove invoice.
Oh, okay. Does that answer your question? It was an HR consultant.
I didn't quite get the answer.
For human resources, just to expand, human resources consultant.
I guess it was necessary, but sometimes things happen that are not necessary. So try and find that 100,000 without taking it off the roads and bridges and all that stuff.
We hear you. Thank you. Thank you. Further questions? Being question period? All right, well, thank you very much. With that, we're on item 20, Municipal Act Notice. Clerk Turner, there's nothing? Okay, we have something. And, yes, I see.
So there is a notice that the West Grey Council will consider passing the 2019 Municipality of West Grey budget during the April 2nd, 2019 council meeting. So a public meeting will be held at 10:15 a.m. during the April 2nd, 2019 council meeting. And the budget bylaw will also be placed on the April 2nd, 2019 council meeting agenda for consideration for approval. And as we've heard, there will be another committee of the whole budget meeting on Friday, so that budget bylaw could very well be amended depending on the outcome.
Further comment on that, Director Mighton? Anything? Okay, so we don't need to do anything with this. It's just a notice. All right, so I'm looking for a motion to go in camera. Okay, I'm looking for a mover and a seconder to go in camera to finish the items that we discussed earlier. Councillor Herger, Deputy Mayor, all those in favor? Opposed, if any? Carried. All right, thank you.
you.